We're here this afternoon with Emmett Reed, the winemaker for Gustafson Vineyards in Dry Creek. And Emmett, for starters, tell us a little bit about this property and the history behind it.
This is a 247-acre ranch in the mountains above Dry Creek Valley. We sit at 1,800 feet over the valley floor. Dan purchased the property in 2002. Prior to that, it was used primarily as sheep grazing land. Other than that, it was just basically an open range ranch. Starting in 2002, Dan purchased the property and began developing some of the sites for vineyard planting. This Petite Syrah was planted in 2004, as were 12 other acres. In 2008, we planted an additional 8 acres, taking us up to 20 acres, which is about the maximum that we're thinking we're going to plant on this vineyard, which is about little less than 10% of the actual acreage of the entire ranch.
Right. And we're currently in a Petite Syrah vineyard, but you have other varieties that you grow out here, right?
Yes. We grow Zinfandel, Cabernet Sauvignon, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, and Syrah.
Okay. Earlier today, I overheard Dan tell someone that you guys make a lot of passes throughout the season in these vineyards. Can you talk a little bit about that concept?
Sure. So on average, most of our vines are touched about 12 times a year. That begins with pruning in the late winter, early spring, suckering at bud break, shoot positioning throughout the middle of the spring, and then we move in and actually remove some fruit from the vines if it's too heavy. And then we obviously, I don't know if you can see, but the nets are up. And that's sort of the end of the process, and then there's also harvest. So in between there, you figure that the vines are getting handled between 10 and 12 times a year.
And what is if there is such a thing, the viticultural philosophy for Gustafson?
We like to practice sustainability, which is basically the approach of being as organic as we can be. We are not certified organic. We try and be organic in all of our practices whenever possible, but we're also realistic about the pressures up here. In a season like 2008, where there is very minimal disease pressure, we run a fully organic program. However, this year, with the very late spring rains, we actually had to use some conventional fungicides, which is obviously not organic. But the idea is to have as light of an imprint on the land here as possible, which plays into the bird netting. If you have to put the bird net out, that means there's a lot of birds. Birds eat the bad bugs and the good bugs. We've never had to spray a pesticide, and we never want to.
Right.
So that's sort of our philosophy.
And you are in the middle of the harvest now?
Yes.
Has anything come in yet?
Here we've brought in our Sauvignon Blanc, and we're getting ready to bring in our Rosé day after tomorrow.
Right. I should make note for anybody that doesn't know you that you are sporting your harvest beard, right?
Yes. It's sort of a winemaker's tradition. Once the first grapes come in, stop shaving, and when the last grapes get pressed off, we all try and clean back up.
Okay, great. Exactly. I guess in a few minutes we're going to go inside. We're going to taste some of the Petite Syrah coming out of this vineyard.
Yes.
And before we go, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your winemaking style in general. What are you trying to do? What's your vision when you're making the wine from Gustafson Vineyards?
The goal here is really to grow the wine in the vineyard, and that's one of the beauties of this project. Because we are small, I can be very hands-on in the vineyard. I can be out there pretty much every day of the week, really overseeing the process. We like to say we grow wine here. The wine comes in from the vines as grapes, and we really just shepherd it through the winery. We do as little as possible in terms of manipulation, with the goal of letting the vineyard express itself. And I feel that we're pretty successful in that, particularly with the Petite Syrah, which is a great grape for this environment. As you can see, these are pretty healthy vines. They're in pretty good shape right now, and the clusters are just beautiful. So we're actually really looking forward to this year's harvest. Actually,
I'm going to ask you to grab, is it possible to grab one of those clusters and show it like right above your chest so that we can see what it looks like?
So this is
perfect.
This is a bit of a small-sized Petite Syrah cluster. Usually they're a little bit larger, but this is classic density for a Petite Syrah cluster, really packed in tight. And you can see here there is a little bit of sunburn. These Petite Syrah, oddly enough, is a very delicate grape considering how robust the wines can be, it is very, very susceptible to sunburn. So which is why you can't really see any of the grapes here. We keep the canopy heavy to protect the grapes from the sun.
So that canopy that we're seeing covering the grapes is on purpose?
Yes. You'll see very often that the fruit zone is often stripped out of leaves, and that is to expose them to more sun for varietals such as Cabernet Sauvignon, which can really want a little more sun exposure. Their skins are just a little tougher, so they don't quite get the sunburn or have the susceptibility to sunburn that Petit Syrah does.
Wonderful. Great. All right, let's go taste some wine.
Sounds great.